So with the style of basket we're going to make, everything is measured out in arm's length, specifically 2 arm's length. So I'll take my wax linen and I'll measure 1. I'll unravel it and measure 2. At this point, I want to cut, and then I'm going to form a series of lark's head knots around that loop. Let me show you how to do that. So as mentioned, what I want to do is make my lark's head knots. Now it's worth mentioning, the only time that I keep moisture in these pine needles is to start out with, just because I'm coiling around a tight confined space and they do tend to break. But as I start establishing my base, I want to quickly migrate away from these wet needles. So with my wax linen, I'll grab about a foot of it, like you see here. So about a foot. And I'll just set that to the side. And we'll pinch right up top. We'll take our thread, and I just feed this through. Like that. I'll grab the 2 center strands and I'm just going to pull. And I pull tight. So from here, I want to take the shorter tag and just feed this through and repeat the same process just about all the way around. So again, I'm just forming a continuation on that lark's head. So we'll feed it through. Trying to get this so you can see it. And pull tight. So feed it through. And pull tight. Once more. We'll feed it through. And pull tight. And again, I'll continue this all the way around till about here. So I'll be right back with you. So once I've gotten to about right here with this short tag end, I'll take my long end and I'll do a continuation of a lark's head knot, and I'll take this tag end, this small tag end, and I'll feed this through to the other side, and I'm just going to singe down and pull tight. So what that does is that secures this small tag end, and then I'm going to proceed by taking the long end and tying off more lark's head knots around this gap. So here's our ring with all the lark's head knots formed around it. You can see how that looks. At this point, we're going to disregard this small tag end and utilize the long thread with the needle attached. What I want to do is I want to create 3 loops at a time from the top feeding down. So it should look like this. I just form 3 loops in between each knot. You can see that. And then we take a pine needle. We feed the pine needle through all 3 loops, and we singe each one down. And we just keep repeating that same process until we start to wrap around this little gauge here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back with you for the next step. Alright, so here's what we have here. You can see we again did a series of 3 loops, fed in needles, and singe those down. So at this point, what I want to do is take my scissors here, and I just want to trim up these little tag ends. And it's important to trim towards the coil. All right, so that's what we have. Now you can see what it looks like. At this point, you'll see these single stitches down here. What I want to do is I just want to catch the stitch and start wrapping around the needles. Now when I talk about catching the stitch, it's quite simple. You just want to take your thread, loop it around the bundle, and you'll see each stitch down here. So that first stitch, you want to feed it under the set of pine needles. And you want to catch it on the other side. So the first one can be just a little bit tricky, but it just takes a little bit of fidgeting with. And I got that stitch. And I just slowly push that needle in so you can see what that looks like. We're just catching it from one side to the other. Then I'll pull my string through and I'll pull tight. And I'll just do the same thing. Loop it around the bundle. We'll find that stitch right in here. We'll poke that in. Again, catching that other side so you can see that. And we'll pull through. And just pull tight. And we'll just continue that process until we loop around once. Once we loop around, that stitch is going to change. So one more time. We just poke the needle in through the bottom. Catch the stitch, and pull the string. So that is our start. And quite honestly, this is the more challenging part on the basket, is just getting it started. So as I'm coiling around and catching each stitch, I notice that it's starting to become thin. So at that point, what you want to do is you want to take your straw and just feed that over all of these needles. That'll group that up. But the real advantage to this is not only keeping it nice and clean, but you can take your bundle of dry pine needles and you can start feeding in right in the center. And that's important, to feed them in the center so they don't push out the sides. Sometimes you'll just have to do one at a time. That one broke. So I'll just feed that one in. And we can still use this. Yeah, that'll still be good. But I'll just feed that again right in the center. That'll widen up this gauge, widen up the bundle, and we can continue to wrap around, catching each stitch.